Alright, now you guys can hear me. Okay, I don't have my good microphone hooked up, so bear with me. We're just looking at a star I was focusing on, and hopefully we'll be tracking ISS in a couple minutes. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining. Alright, so we have the 11-inch Celestron NexStar ready to go. We have it at the full focal length that I can achieve with a 2x Barlow, and with the 2x crop factor of this Micro Four Thirds camera, that corresponds to an effective focal length of about 11.2 meters. Incredible. So we'll see what this is able to do. This is going to be very demanding on tracking. Very demanding on tracking accuracy. So hopefully we'll be okay on that. Moment of truth is coming in just a couple minutes. ISS will be rising any moment now, and we'll start tracking shortly after that. So thank you for the $3, High Plains Drifter. Still impressed you in Red's triangulated ISS height? Yeah, I'm quite proud of that achievement. If I miss your super chat here in the next few minutes, that's because I'm going to be busy paying attention to all my other screens, but I will catch up on super chats after the stream. Let's see. Looks good there. No errors. Good. Okay. I think we're as good as we're going to get. It's now 7:20. ISS should technically be above the horizon. Well, actually, excuse me, not for another minute. And not for another 3 minutes will it reach 10 degrees altitude. So we'll give it a couple more minutes here before we start tracking. Seeing is pretty sketchy. Well, keep in mind this is the maximum focal length of the telescope here. This is 11.6 meters. Yeah, the weather isn't going to be perfect. It went from cloudy to clear tonight. The atmosphere is probably still disturbed, and it is Florida, but we're going to do the best we can. Okay, Sky Safari Pro now is telling me that ISS is rising. We'll give it a minute or two here before we start tracking. Yeah, and I'm gonna head over to the scope during tracking and try to keep track of focus and all of that good stuff. So before I used an 8-inch scope, this is an 11-inch scope. I did do one video tracking with the 11-inch, but that was with half this focal length. That was without the Barlow lens. So this will be the first time trying it with the Barlow lens. That'll be a first. Okay, it's almost 10 degrees altitude at this point. Gonna go ahead and start tracking. Here we go. Come on, baby. Object should be in the view. Oh, it's there. It's there, but it's fuzzy and faint. All right, focus. Tracking is spot on. It's looking pretty good. Pretty steady, guys. Tracking is so steady. Hard to decide where the good point of focus is. Oh yeah, how about that? Wow. Oh, that looks amazing. Oh, it's beautiful. Walked onto something else? Oh, huh? Yeah. Oh, we're in the trees. We're in the trees. Yeah. That's all she wrote. She's set in the trees now. Wow. Ah, wow, that was amazing. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy, guys. That worked. That worked superbly. Oh, it's so smooth. How about that? How about that? It's not bad. Just scrolling through the replay here, finding a good stream or a good frame. All right, let's catch up on the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I am very happy with that result. And of course, I will be stabilizing that footage and posting it in 4K on the channel separately from this stream. And yes, this was with SatTracker. So I don't know if I put it in the video description. I didn't. I was a little short on time. One of the things I forgot. I'm a creature of habit, you see, and what is it? GitHub, of course. I'm a creature of habit, and the old LX200, I would always align using the hand controller of the physical hand controller of the telescope, and then that would be that. Um, I'm going to post a link to SatTracker source code here in the chat. The current version actually has a bug with the old LX200 compatibility I need to fix, but it works great with AutoStar, or sorry, ASCOM-based telescopes, including the NexStar, which is what I use tonight. Um, so when I started setting up, I initially aligned using the telescope's physical hand controller as I normally would. And then I totally forgot that I needed to align it based on NexRemote. So NexRemote is like a virtual hand controller on the PC that the satellite tracking software connects to in order to run the tracking. And you have to align it using NexRemote, not the hand controller. I mean, you can align it using the hand controller, but you also need to align it using NexRemote, a totally separate alignment, as if the telescope is fresh and it doesn't remember where it's pointed. So I kind of totally forgot to do that until about 30 minutes before the stream, And then when I fired up next remote, I remembered, oh no, that's right, I need to align it on 2 stars. So I had to quickly run through the alignment procedure a second time with next remote, and eventually I'll remember to do that. But no problem. Once I got that done, I was able to get the camera on, get it focused, get it ready for the stream, and here we are with some nice footage of ISS. You can clearly see the Crew Dragon docked there in the lower left. That's Crew Dragon for Crew 3. And you may have heard the stories. Yes, ISS, well, NASA's pledging support for ISS through 2030, and they're planning to deorbit it after that. There is some debate, I would say, in the space community on whether that's the best course of action um, or not, but that's worthy of a whole nother video of Scott Manley level quality. And I think he may have even done a video at some point describing the complexities and difficulties of trying to deorbit something as large as ISS. The fuel requirements to achieve the delta V needed for a controlled, safe reentry are not minor. It's not trivial. So deorbiting the space station itself will be a challenge if that's the way they choose to go. And hopefully, I'm personally hoping they can support ISS even beyond 2030. So we'll see what happens. But there she is for now. And so, especially given that we may only have ISS with us for another 8 years or so, maybe 2031 by the time they deorbit, less than a decade, I personally am going to make every effort I can to make every opportunity count for tracking ISS and documenting the last years of its life potentially. And I remember when Columbia was lost and they planned for the end of the shuttle program, how far off it seemed at the time. I mean, it was still 7 years away and ended up being 8 years away. Seemed like we had a lot of time, and those years flew by. So I definitely want to make sure to capitalize on the time we have left here with ISS to capture it like this through the telescope. I think there's room for improvement here on the focus. I was tweaking back and forth with the focus, and it was hard to see on the viewfinder camera. Well, not the viewfinder camera. I have a secondary screen that I can carry with me to look at the main camera view, and I was trying to focus it based on that. But with the shaking from the motors a little bit, it was a little hard to see exactly what I was doing and whether I was in focus or not. It's always a challenge. Um, but practice makes perfect, and I have some ideas for the future for trying to do real-time stabilization. I think that's where the money's at. Is if I can run a secondary program in the background to stabilize the main camera view in real time, that would make focusing a much easier task. I think to do that efficiently, I should really consider leveraging the power of the computer's graphics card and doing processing onboard the graphics card that way. And I have very little experience doing that, to be honest. So that's something I need to dig into and see what I can do there. In other news, I am planning to do a stream tomorrow night. There's a Falcon 9 second stage that is going to be flying by Earth. It's the Falcon 9 second stage that launched the Discover probe, or Discover satellite, to the L1 Earth-Sun Lagrange point. And it was left in a highly elliptical orbit that took it out past the moon. And it's still in that orbit, but it's now reached the point that it is expected to collide with the moon in March. So you may have seen some stories out about that, and there's been a lot of yellow journalism and just bad journalism describing it as an out of control or just spiraling out of control Falcon 9, making it sound like it was some sort of failure or something. It's not. It's a Falcon 9 that's the second stage that's been dead for years, just left in a transfer orbit that takes it out past the moon and back. And this time, it will come by perigee tomorrow night, and then head out past the moon again. And then on its way back towards Earth, it will actually hit. I believe that's how it's going to work. It will hit the far side of the moon, so it won't be visible. The impact will not be visible from Earth, and um, hopefully the L-Cross mission orbiting the moon will be able to image whatever impact crater it makes, which will be interesting. But it's not the first time a man-made object has hit the moon by any stretch of the imagination. It's not even the first time that an upper stage of a rocket has hit the moon. Some of the Saturn V upper stages during the Apollo program were deliberately targeted to hit the moon in order to measure seismic waves and study the structure of the moon's interior. So it's nothing to worry about, but it is interesting nevertheless that this Falcon 9 second stage will end up hitting the moon. And there's one more opportunity basically to view it tomorrow night as it swings by Earth. It should be visible. The interesting thing about that is the orbit is so extreme that typical propagators for orbits like SGP-4 break down. They don't work on these orbital elements. It's so elliptical and so extreme that it just doesn't work. So NeoTracker can't even track it natively because it's relying on SGP-4 and it just can't do it. Um, so I'm going to have to basically manually point the telescope at the coordinates of the object and hope that it's bright enough that it shows up, even though it'll be moving through the view at a fairly steady pace. I'm estimating about 1 pixel per second. And so it's got to reach enough, it's got to deliver enough photons onto each pixel of the CCD in 1 second to get over the noise floor, basically, and make a signal that is detectable in the image. Otherwise, it'll be invisible. That's why direct tracking is always handy, but in this case, direct tracking is not trivial. If I had more time to really finagle with things, I could try to write a different program that relied on ephemeris from Find Orb or something like that. I tried to tinker with that today, but it was just way too time consuming and there's just not enough time. So I'm going to do the best with indirect tracking, just pointing at the coordinates and watching it pass through the field of view. So we'll see what we can do with that tomorrow night. So look for that stream. I'm going to try to set up probably the smaller LX200 for just for speed of operation. Um, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm I'm actually debating that. Should I set up the 8-inch, or should I leverage um, the higher power or the light gathering ability of the 11-inch scope? F ratio wise, they're equivalent, and I do have the ability to now attach the focal reducer on there, which is what I would definitely want to do. It's questionable. It's questionable. Could go either way. The trouble with it is even with the focal reducer, pound for pound, you're going to get more focal length, which is actually not what you want. You want less focal length. You want, I guess it doesn't really matter because you do have more aperture you're working with on the other hand. But yeah, it's could go either way with it. There's pros and cons to it, I guess is what I'm saying. But I might end up using the smaller 8-inch LX200 for if for no other reason, then the setup time might be reduced because it's smaller and lighter, and I can just get it out there faster. Time is of the essence tomorrow night because it will be setting by about 10 p.m. And so there's a short window of opportunity to get it just after sunset and after twilight. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm going to save this footage and process it. Probably start on that tonight. I don't know if I'll get it done tonight. Obviously, tomorrow the priority is tracking the Falcon 9 second stage for Discover, and that'll be a separate webcast. So this might have to sit around on my hard drive for a little bit before I get around to doing final processing on this and uploading it. But I tell you what, I'll rewind it here one more time and play it for anyone who missed it. We'll play back the replay of the raw footage, and then we'll end the stream there. Let me see here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything super chat wise. Actually, I guess I should check the account directly. Doesn't look like I missed anything. Yeah, Dead Crow. So, better tracking, you really haven't seen better tracking from me, believe it or not. The videos you've seen that are already processed, those are always stabilized. But if you look back, you can find previous live streams that I've done with raw tracking shown, and you can see the difference between LX200 and this scope. And keep in mind, again, this scope was operating at an effective focal length of 11.6 meters. That is psychotic. That is absolutely psychotic. Talk to any photographer and tell them you just watched a video of ISS shot at 11.6 meters focal length, and their eyes will bug out in terms of the demand that places on tracking accuracy. So I am very happy with how the scope performed tracking accuracy wise. It was very easy to keep it in view the whole time, and I was moving it around a little bit myself using the arrow keys to try to keep it a bit centered. And that's a bit coarse The corrections there are a bit coarse just because of the image scale of the finder camera, but not super duper coarse, which is impressive again at the focal length I'm operating at. So yeah, it was very manageable, very manageable. So I'm going to rewind the footage here and just play it one more time. Start there after I got it somewhat focused. Yeah, occasionally it would shoot out of view. That was usually due to something like it went over a power line or the scope just hiccuped for a moment, or the computer probably hiccuped for a moment. Yeah, effective focal length 11.6 meters. Optically, the scope has a 2.8 meter focal length, but I've got a 2x Barlow on here. Okay, that gets you to 5.6. Then you double it again because the camera has a crop factor of 2x. This is a micro four thirds Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, and so the effective focal length becomes 11.6 meters. And I was dancing around there with exposure as well. We were doing 1/1000th at the fastest exposure, and then I took it back to 1/500. The reflections off the radiators were pretty bright, and 1/500 maybe overexposed the radiators a little bit, but I think it was better for the solar panels, and I think that's what I ended up at for the rest of the video here is now 1/500th of a second exposure. ISO, I forget what I had. I think I had 12,000 ISO, thereabouts. So yeah, I am very pleased with the quality of that. Gosh, it just looks so good, and it's not struggling to keep it in the field of view. The old LX200 would have never been able to do this at this focal length, at this magnification. It would have been dancing around because of the nature of the tracking algorithm I had to use with the LX200. It was indirect. It didn't allow me direct access to the drive rates. This does. NexStar does allow me direct access to the drive rates with high precision, so I can command exactly the velocity I want, which is what you need when you're tracking the space station traveling at about 1 degree per second through the sky at peak. We peaked here, maybe not quite that fast because the maximum altitude was a little over 50 degrees above horizon, but nevertheless pretty good. And yeah, ultimately we will do this on future passes as well. So there it goes, starts to go into the trees, and we start to lose it. Um, yeah, and the lighting angle perhaps here was not super favorable for most of the pass because it was in the west. The sun is in the west, and you don't have the station backlit really. That's what or You don't have the sun behind you. That's what you want. You want the station in front of you and the sun in the sky having set behind you for the ideal sun angle on the station for best quality. Anyway, that'll do it for this stream. Thanks everyone for watching, and stay tuned for the stabilized process footage. Till next time, clear skies, folks.